Hello, I'm Don Wellman. I'm reading my new long essay poem, Transhistorical Geography. Lives of the Poets. The first section of this text presents a transhistorical geography. It follows the boyhood wanderings of Ezra Pound, among other literary figures, and centers on a polis that emerged in Gloucester Harbor. Andalusia, in a time of civil war, is one of the interpolated geopolitical sites. Old men with silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses gather in a cafe near a nursing home in Nashua, New Hampshire, and reminisce about their childhood. The home is on a hill whose lower skirt is traced by the Salmon Brook. That brook, emptying into the Merrimack River, was the economic hub of the ancient town of Dunstable, an area called the Neck, a trading post being located there for commercial interchanges with Native Americans, Pennacook, and Nashaway. In later years, Ingersoll Rand, a manufacturer of equipment for constructing paper mills that were sold to China, and the International Paper Box Machine Company were located on Salmon Brook. So was the city dump. Later, the Seminole Plaza was built on the landfill. Upstream, in Fields's Grove, on summer days, there were leeches. Lives of the Poets. My beloved Emilio did not study with Husserl, he says, although he was a student in Freiburg. Instead, he courted solitude and dreamed of the boy who inspired him to study animal husbandry. Entre Cañones, the boy Antonio, perished in the battle for Madrid. My grim Antonio of another age learned his Latin from Augustinians who employed corporal punishment for wayward boys. The donkey screamed when the soldier bashed in its brains. Now in my old age, my daughter and my granddaughter comfort me. The nun with the concertina regaled the girls who skipped rope in the alley. In those days, the sexes did not mix during recess. The boys gambled with marbles or threw pennies against the wall, the poets' glasses like saucers. Donald beloved languages. Gerard, who wrote in sprung rhythm. Donald venerated James, who skulked among the statues and watched old men who fingered the anus of Venus. He lived in a garage with an earthen floor. The linoleum reeked of axle grease and horse manure. Among his books were Rabelais. In adolescence, he had walked along the road where mustard bloomed. He knew a Russian song about the margin of the sea. His Rimbaud revelry befell upon a Neckar River barge. He saw the Camargue with his adolescent daughter. They slept in the cloister, not by Usura Saint Trophime, orange soda in the night cafe, Ireland and Spain. Long after inspiration had bent his bones into walking canes, his love for solitude prepared him for eternity. Clichés like milkweed float among embroideries. It's not a poem about a crumb of dust, as Edward Taylor wrote, but of triumph for all its jags and jars. In the windy blue Canadian air, he climbed to the rooftop and swept old carbon from the chimney flue. Herman Melville suspends philosophers' skulls from the ardam of his Pequod. Stateless enemy, my fisher king inhabits a seaport polis where poets' children once throve in a park above the harbor tides. In an Australian desert, maternal men celebrate fatherhood. Bob Allen John. After the loss of his eye, his family moved to West Acton, where the train to Fitchburg paused. My grandmother took me to the Eye and Ear on the Nashua line, a Woolworth's in Scully Square brilliant with plastic airplanes, French toast slathered with chemical syrup. John. Do you remember Harvard Gardens and Mystical 55? Stephen and Robin and Jack. No one listens to poetry. I'm just back from the home on Dana Street where Charlie, who always wore farmer's jeans, waits for Mitzel in the parking lot. Old men smoke salvaged butt ends. A poetry collective is a tender memory. We met on Bromfield Street. We met in Christiansted and in the afterlife on the north shore of Haiti. Bombs where poets gathered. Baghdad and Boston. Headlines in El País. Rent boys that lonely summer. Spain, like New England, where lives are never as they seem to those who seek the genuine article. Love in the antique mall, graves unmarked. Kids who die is my subject, as it was Langston's. Men of many hues, an international tribe. Where lie the mothers in the plethora of lives? Hermione and H.D., fictive and real. In the snows of yesteryear, Margarita and Gertrude, Suzanne of Martinique, Elena's Tina Modotti, Juna, who roams the world in search of home and hope. My school of exile is a form of men and women, adolescent intrusions, as this document shows, a common frailty among old men. The frothy brew of my exuberance leaves me nonplussed before the need to write and weave citations into my text, a habit of my Aunt Gladys. Her silver curls, her mirror and brush of gold. My sister asks how I survived our dad's cannibalistic rage. Exile from the mills was easy enough for me, first a coffin maker and then a professor. The dissident Thoreau is my contemporary. I hunted the condemned father, as was the case with Neil, the mark of Cain on my brow. More kin to Grendel than the hero, I wandered marshlands and botanized among flesh-eating plants, sinkholes that swallowed cattle. My Irish bog, my mother's native land, wo vilis do. Nashua. The subject is a libretto that features male voices, tenor and bass, sometimes a boy soprano, my alter ego. A butcher who understood how to tan hides supplied the belts used to transfer power from the water turbines to the looms. The canal brings water to the factories from 3 miles upstream. The water from the canal drops 30 feet to power the turbines. In the day of protest, a bride and groom were fired upon by the militia. They returned from their wedding in one of 3 Greek Orthodox churches that served new immigrants. The groom perished. Near the site of the insurrection, children attending Palm Street School learned to brush their teeth with baking soda. They studied solfège, One boy kept a diary in which he recorded the weather on each day of the year in which he perished of scarlet fever. Cold, terrible cold. His father was the harness maker who ran for mayor on the Communist Party ticket pledged to the election of Eugene V. Debs.